What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. Chance and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome everybody to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell. In this episode, we're going to discuss what's the Ravens' plan at outside linebacker. I mean, here we are a few weeks after the draft, and most of us expected them to add to the room after that May 3rd deadline where it wouldn't affect future comp picks. But they're still waiting. There still hasn't been any movement on the edge market since the draft. So I'm sure that they're in communication with some guys, but I guess we're here to talk about who's still out there, and are the Ravens, and should the Ravens be comfortable going into the season with who they already have in the room? So Jimmy, I'm going to kick it to you. Were you expecting the Ravens to immediately, sign a guy after that May 3rd? Are you surprised that they haven't added to that group since the draft?
Yeah, it's interesting to me because now the Colts seemingly have moved on from Justin Houston when they picked up Kwity Paye. Now, nothing wrong with having more than one guy that can go get it, but seemingly they're turning the page. And so with that said, I was surprised that he didn't sign based on the visit and the timing, and obviously the Villanueva signing happened in that fashion. And so I thought that, yeah, it would be very similar. So, I mean, he's still out there, but I was certainly surprised. And really, like you said, if that's where we're going to start, the way I would approach this at this point is who we have now and how comfortable we are with them. And I'm just going to say it. I'm going to be really nervous if we go into the season without another guy. I mean, there's just really no other way to put it. We lost Judon, a longtime staple here, consistent as far as availability and performance. We lost Ngakoue while he was relatively limited in his game. He's really good at one thing, right? Mm-hmm. And, he didn't have gaudy numbers, but he definitely attracted attention at the very least.
Yeah.
And so right now with it being Bowser, Udafe, Hayes, McPhee, who am I missing? I mean, I think that's
a pretty good group there. I mean, I know that Ferguson is
and Jalen Ferguson,
but some are predicting that he might start to move inside more and become, because he does have I think he's up to like 285 right now, which is equal to, I believe, Derek Wolf's weight. So he might be moving inside to D end in the 3-4. But either way, you're right. He was drafted as an edge guy, so he would be competing for snaps there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think for me, the answer is yes, we need to bring in another guy. Eric DeCosta, the way he sees free agency is until August, and even then, he's done some midseason trades and things like that in the past, so we could see something like that. But we need to bring in another guy. I'm not comfortable moving forward. Where are you as far as, what are some? I mean, where are you? Where's your headspace as far as that goes? And then, is there a silver lining that I'm missing, with the group of guys that we have?
Well, I think the only possible silver lining you see is that there are more reps, more practice reps, more game reps. And if they take advantage of those reps, in theory, they should grow quicker. They should, because they say you need reps to grow. You need to be able to, take what you learn on the practice field and show that you can do it in the games. And so certainly more reps will give them the opportunity to prove it. But it's also more of an opportunity to prove that they still have more work that needs to be done, and more opportunity for opposing offenses to find the potential weaknesses and expose them in games when they matter most. And every game in the NFL season counts. It's not like baseball where you have 162 and you can afford to have a 5-6 game losing streak. And really, it's a blip on the radar because it's such a massive season. Even basketball and hockey with 82 games is such a massive season that you can go on stretches and recover. In the NFL, if they have a perceived weakness, especially at edge, teams will exploit that. And if one team has success, you better believe the next team is going to mimic that and try and find the same success. So it has a little bit of a chance of progressing their growing process quicker. But man, the double-edged sword of that is that it could also expose us and cause us to lose some games, and they're so valuable. So I'm I'm concerned, but I think that, the Colts, you looking at the Colts and saying, well, they drafted Kwity Paye, or they turning the page. I think the same could probably be said for the Ravens in drafting Odafe Oweh. From an outsider's perspective, they could say, oh, well, they moved on because they found Hayes and they found Odafe. So I don't think that they moved on, but I'm just saying, I think that, they could say the same to us.
Yeah.
But I'm like you, Jimbo. I would be worried going into this season because while Odafe is a first-round pick and you tend to expect first-round picks to produce early, he's also very new to football. 5 years in to playing the sport, starting at just 17 years old is insane to me. So while he's gotten a lot better in a short period of time, he still has a lot of growing to do at this position. But, not just as a football player, but still he's growing as a man. He's still filling out his frame.
Right.
And we don't really know what his, what he'll end up, being physically yet, much less as a football player, which we obviously have no idea what his ceiling is there. But he still has time to grow. He's going to see things week one that he's never seen before. They're going to test him. They're going to test him early and often. And then, Hayes, while he's older and has been playing football longer, there's a reason he was a late round draft pick. He's got limitations physically and by, talent wise, he's got limitations. So, it's hard to know what you can really count on him. Now, we got a pretty good understanding of the other guys. Bowser, we know that pass rush is kind of the third thing he does well, behind his coverage skills and his ability to defend the run. And then McPhee, while we love that guy. I mean, that's one of our guys. And but he obviously at this point in his career, at his age, he's got limitations physically as well. And I don't think he's going to beat anyone with speed around the edge. He's going to have to do it with those violent hands. And I think he's probably still better suited rushing from the interior, on passing down. So edge is still an area of concern. But I want to kick it to you with this question, Jimbo. When you heard Wink Martindale, they have a quote out there, from him talking about what he's seen in the early days from Odafe Oweh. And I thought it was interesting because he pointed out and basically said, I don't have the quote right in front of me. Of course, it just went away. But basically he's saying that Odafe already does some things better than some of the vets on the team, and he wasn't saying that as a knock to the vets. He was saying the way he sets the edge, the way he plays the run on downs 1 and 2 is something he hasn't seen from a linebacker in a long, long time. So does that vote of confidence from Wink do enough or do anything as far as, minimizing your worries about that position?
It does. So it certainly does, because I obviously put a lot of stock in Wink as a defensive analyst, defensive play caller, all those things. The guy's one of the greatest minds in the league. In my mind, the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. So yeah, it does ease some of my concerns. I guess in my mind at this point, based on what you were talking about, am I missing the two departures, Judon and Ngakoue? I'm not missing someone from that room, am I?
Yeah. I mean, who was it that went to the Jags? He would come in, Jihad Ward.
Jihad Ward. Okay.
Yeah.
So
but that's it. Yeah.
But so at the end of the day, I think this is the question, and maybe I'm starting to feel a little better since we're talking about it a little more. Sometimes these shows end up serving as therapy for me. My mood on a situation or my feelings, can dramatically improve or decrease throughout the show. Right. So in this scenario, do you think that we can depend on Odafe to have a similar impact, however statistically that shows up? The combination of Odafe and Hayes to have a similar impact to Judon and Ngakoue last year. Is that too much to ask to say, okay, we think that these two guys can mimic in production, right, in effectiveness, or however you want to rate that, what we lost in those two guys? I'm starting to think that maybe not. Based on Wink's quotes and people are already really hyped about Odafe, I think he could be relatively productive at a very minimum, of course, like we've talked about in the run game. So if he can give you a little bit in the pass rush, I feel like he's going to be better than Matt Judon in the run game. Matt was never like an absolute edge setter.
Right.
So
he was okay. He was solid, but yeah.
He was solid, but there were times where you saw him sloughing against tight ends.
Yeah.
And you were like, wait a second. Yeah, absolutely. So certainly if he's better than Matt that way, if he can give you a little bit in the pass rush, that might in the wash like negate itself. And maybe I'm trying to massage myself through this. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, while Ngakoue is really good at speed rush on the outside, productivity wise, he didn't do a lot.
No.
So maybe
and they wouldn't even put him on the field on first and second.
Right, exactly. And then like his snap count went down so low, like his snap count percentage, or even volume. So can Hayes duplicate that in it'll look different, but as far as production wise, can he get us whatever, like 3 sacks, or whatever Ngakoue ended up getting with us, 2 against the Jags, I think it was, that was one game. So I guess that to me is the question I'm trying to answer. So what are your thoughts on that? Maybe the Ravens are thinking, look, we think we can go in and get the same production, look a little different, but production wise get the same.
Yeah, I don't think it's too much to ask from these guys, but it might be a little bit much to expect it from them day one.
A lot of ifs, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, maybe by the end of the year you can, but can you expect it from them in the early parts of the year, weeks 1 through 4? That's tough. I mean, we're all hopeful that they're going to hit the ground running and be fantastic and able to contribute day one. But to expect it, I don't know if you can quite do that. And Wink was asked that question about, are they adding anyone into the room? And he said that, I wish I could answer that for you. He said, there's still a couple guys out there. He says, we'll see what happens. But right now, I'm really happy with what we have. And of course, he's supposed to say that. It's something he has to say. But I think if we gave him some truth serum, he'd want to see a veteran added to this group, because that would seem to kind of complete the group. Because I think every position group, they want to have a good mix of veterans and young guys, because you got to have that youth that keeps feeding the team's engine. But you need to have some veterans in there that can show the young guys how it is to prepare, how it is to be a professional. This is their job now. This isn't something they do on the side or anything like that. So I think but also it brings depth. I mean, what if Odafe were to go down with a high ankle?
Then what?
Then you're
4
really in trouble.
And you're worried about Snack Ferguson out there trying to be Matt Judon.
Yeah,
that's
then
a problem.
you got no speed at the position. So I think that for nothing else, you have to bring in depth. Even if you don't hit on Justin Houston or Melvin Ingram, who are the 2 big names still out there that seem like the obvious scheme fit. I mean, there's some other guys out there like Olivier Vernon, Everson Griffin, but they don't really scream scheme fit to me. I think Griffin's more of a 3-4 end, and Olivier Vernon's more of a 4-3 end, but neither one are really a 3-4 outside linebacker, whereas Justin Houston and Melvin Ingram would fit right in that role. But they could be getting higher bids from other teams, and the Ravens don't typically win bidding wars. That just doesn't seem like something they typically win out on. So I think that I would like to see them add a guy to this group. I don't know if it's going to be. I mean, obviously, our guy is Justin Houston. That's the one we're hoping for. That's the one who's been incredibly productive, reliable to stay on the field. He's a professional, a true pro, and he's only 32, which I think I was expecting, because he seems like he's been around forever. And
he looks like an old dude, like one of those guys that, when he's 20, he looks like he's 35.
Right, exactly. And it seems like his year where he had 22 sacks was 100 years ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was a decent while ago, but not that crazy. So I think that, and we've seen recent productivity from him. So I think he's our guy, but I wouldn't also be shocked if they add a lower level guy that's more of a depth guy, because you can't go into this position with it being so fragile and so reliant on young guys to contribute early. Because if one goes down, then the house of cards can start to really cave in, because now you're asking a lot from these young guys who even if they did play last season in the shortened season, it was shorter. It wasn't, it wasn't like they were playing 12 games. A lot of these guys were playing 6-7 games, and then they went into combine preparation, which is football. Right. So or pro day preparation, I should say, not football. So, man, I'm nervous right now. I know we got some new coaches. I know that Wink is really, raving about adding Rob Ryan to the group. Yeah. He said inside linebackers will play better than they have the last few years because he's that good of a coach. So he really has high hope, but that's inside. That's not really helping much on the edge. So I'm still nervous about where the sacks are coming from if we don't add to this group. And even, all the stars have to align for them to even have enough guys to properly play a full NFL season. That means if one guy goes down, I mean, would you be shocked at all to hear Pernell McPhee has has a torn biceps or something. Anything,
right.
something could happen. So
yeah,
they got to do something, Jimbo, or I'm going to be awfully nervous heading into week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. I think that what it comes down to is whether it's depth or a starter. We need more bodies in that room. We need some more experience in that room. Some guys we can rely on to be available and productive. I don't think that going in with who we have is the answer for success. So let us know what you guys think.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling? What is your confidence level? What do you think that Udafe and Hayes will do in year 1? How much can we depend on them? And then how urgent is it that we go out and sign a guy from the free agency market? Let us know all things in the comments, and we'll talk to you guys soon.